Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
My name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched The Animatrix.
Yeah, because it's 2003.
Ooh. Yeah.
Woo.
2003.
Woo.
War on Terror.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that? Remember the War on Terror?
From the creators of the Matrix trilogy. What is the Animatrix?
We know the truth now.
Experience the extraordinary fusion of CG animation and Japanese anime in a groundbreaking collection of 9 animated stories from 7 visionary directors that takes the world of the Matrix to its unimaginable limits.
I do.
Yeah.
I find it difficult to forget it.
Okay, it's Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
It's Thursday, which means that this was given to us by one of our patrons. And so a big shout out to David Knife Boot Henson.
Knife boot!
Knife Boot for giving us a choice, actually, between Akira or the Animatrix.
Mm-hmm.
I pushed for the Animatrix, Tom.
You sure did.
Because I had seen this before. I had, in fact, seen it several times.
I have
You hadn't.
never seen the Animatrix because, Dave, I gotta tell you, I am not a Matrix fan.
Yeah. That's fair.
So I did not watch the Animatrix.
Let me tell you something. This is it's a good place to start, is our Matrix fandom.
Mm-hmm.
I would call myself not a Matrix fan in the sense that I haven't watched the movies in a very long time. I don't really know much about the lore. That said,
That's same.
yeah, I mean, I don't, or rather, I'm not like a nerd for the lore. You know what I mean? That said, I've watched all 3 Matrix films, the entirety of the behind the scenes of all the DVDs and Blu-rays. I have played both video games, watched all the cutscenes, and watched the Animatrix. I have consumed all that the Matrix has to offer.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Dave. It kind of sounds like you're a fan of the Matrix.
Well, I guess here's the question, is what makes you a fan of something? Because part of the reason I consumed so much is I had a friend who was a fan of the Matrix. And so I just happened to also, this friend bought the video game and made me play it because they didn't want to play the video game, but they wanted to know the lore. And so on and so forth.
I mean, sure, especially back when this game came out. Like, if you had told...
It was a great game.
Well, yeah, and also, it's like 2002, 2003, so if you'd come up to my 19-year-old ass and said, I'm gonna buy a video game, and I want you to play it, deal.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to pop this in my GameCube.
I get one video game a year, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So if you want to give me one, I will play it for you. I don't care.
And I'm sure they're both dated, but Enter the Matrix and Path of Neo were very good games.
I remember
when they came out.
I saw a bit of Enter the Matrix because a friend of mine had it, and I was over at his house a couple of times with a bunch of people while he was playing through it because, everybody wanted to see the story stuff, and it was cool to play a game that had Jada Pinkett Smith in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I saw the first movie. I've seen the first Matrix maybe 3 times.
Sure.
And I've seen the sequels twice each.
Okay.
And that is it.
Okay. Here's what I'll also say about me and the Matrix. Because again, I recognize that the last 2 were definitely not good movies.
No, they're very bad. In fact, in my opinion, I think... Real quick, just so nobody, when I say that I'm not a Matrix fan, it doesn't mean that I'm like, oh, fuck the Matrix. I think The Matrix is a very good movie. I think the sequels suck, and I think the lore is gibberish.
I think there's
it just doesn't interest me personally. I don't think the idea of it is stupid. It just never clicked with me. I find it boring. I find the lore boring.
Here's what I'm circling is that I liked a lot of the ideas in the sequels, including spoilers, that it ends in a truce. I thought that was a really cool idea.
I wish I had seen the Animatrix before I saw the Matrix
It makes a little more
Revolutions,
sense.
because that ending comes a little less out of nowhere if you've seen the Animatrix.
Well, it was very much, and it's the same with the games. Some of the games explain some of the things that happen within those two films.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very much a franchise that was doing something that movies shouldn't do, which is being like, we have all this extra reading on the side.
Mm-hmm. But I recognize the opportunity of it, though, because they were doing something that movies shouldn't do, but they were also doing something that movies hadn't really had the opportunity to do before. And it seemed like such a smart direction for the Matrix to go in.
Yeah, they were creating a cinematic universe.
A multimedia universe.
Yeah.
Which was totally fitting for the Matrix, and it's fitting for the Wachowskis because this is their jam.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and so I like a lot of the ideas of the last two, and a lot of the scenes I like. But a lot of it's kind of gibberish. The Wachowskis have that thing where they take a lot of big swings. They make their cloud atlases, they make their, Jupiter ascendings,
right,
and their sensates. And I like a lot of pieces of what they have.
Yeah,
but a lot of it can also be very ridiculous.
Yeah, it's when you're as artistically bold as the Wachowskis, and I am not being ironic when I say that. I think they are very bold filmmakers.
Yeah, I really like the Wachowskis as filmmakers. I don't really like all their ideas.
Yeah, I was gonna let me finish that thought.
Yeah,
it was when you are filmmakers as bold as they are, you run the risk of making something where the line between boldness and self-indulgence gets really blurry.
Oh yeah,
and that the Matrix sequels really suffer from that, especially that second one. Good God!
Now I have said before, Tom, that I think that the Animatrix is better than both the sequels in terms of extending the mythology.
You're not the only person I've heard say that.
Okay. I also, one final thing before we get into the Animatrix, I think the biggest charm to me of the Matrix, the thing that makes me want to like it more, is that has there really been a franchise that blew up that came from nothing since Star Wars? Like, there's obviously Lord of the Rings movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, they're all adapted from things. The Matrix, obviously it borrows a lot from anime, and from prior sci-fi, obviously, but so did Star Wars. So
did everything.
But is that, it feels like the last movie series that came from nothing.
A movie series
created a mythology.
Yeah, a movie series. Yeah, I'll give it that. I would say Harry Potter, but Harry Potter the books specifically, because that was right around the same time as the first Matrix was when Harry Potter came out, and But I think you're right. Like, the Matrix does deserve a lot of credit for,
in that sense.
Just being like a massive phenomenon completely out of nowhere. And like that first movie, I don't think that first movie, you watched a lot of it, so correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that first movie was, oh man, how expensive was that first movie?
It was, I don't think it was that expensive.
Like I didn't want to be apocryphal, but like I had, I guess I should probably look this up as if
I'm looking it up right now.
I feel like
it was a $60 million. It was Jurassic Park, but mind you, in 1999.
Yeah,
which is still not that far from Jurassic Park.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
No, but it was a studio film. It wasn't an indie film.
No, but it's a mid-budget film based on an original idea. It deserves a lot of credit for that, because goddamn.
Yeah,
that was a phenomenon.
And remembering
in the early
aughts. Just the trailers and being like, "What the fuck even is this?" And of course, the bullet time, which was done fairly practical in the first movie, and of course, kind of botched later in the later movies. And so it's like at the time, in terms of CGI, in terms of plot, like we really hadn't seen anything like it, and it brought like a sci-fi fantasy mythology into like modern sensibilities, where it was like a hacker thing, where it was like this mythology that had to do with computers, and superpowers that were done in this very original way, where it was like, no, it's not radioactive spider, it's not spiritual, it's not space monks, they're hacking the world. And it was like, what a cool new way to do superheroes, basically.
Right, yeah, like Inception and like Doctor Strange both owe a lot to the Matrix. Just that idea of, well, the superpower here is playing with reality, so let's play with reality.
Right. And the Animatrix basically is an extension of that first movie, in that it's telling smaller stories within the Matrix, and kind of
and consequently not a lot of them make sense.
And so that, I guess that's what I was getting at, is how did you like the Animatrix?
I thought this was excruciatingly boring.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, first of all, you weren't high, right?
No.
Okay. You said they don't make sense.
They make sense, it's just I mean, in terms of, they don't, like, there's 2 or 3 of them in particular where I'm like, I truly do not understand how this connects to the world we see in those movies.
Right. So,
and I get that, and I get this is a piece of art. Like, the whole idea of the Animatrix was to give a bunch of different anime filmmakers and animators, or anime style animators, because I think the Aeon Flux guy does one.
Yep. Peter Chung does the second to last one, and they also got the guy who did, what is it, Vampire Hunter D?
Ninja Scroll. Yeah.
Ninja Scroll.
It's very, very obvious when it's the Ninja Scroll
that
one.
One's, what, Program? The one with
Program,
the...
yeah.
They also do, like, the Final Fantasy Spirits Within, the Final Fight of the Osiris, which is probably the one people have seen.
That's the one
likely.
That was attached to Dreamcatcher, yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the worst one. It also explains a very brief plot point in the series.
Yeah, it's a plot point that, like, feeds directly into the sequel, so I get why they tagged that one on, but it is
right.
It's the least interesting because it's the least experimental, and I know I just dinged the Animatrix for that, because the whole point of it is it's a piece of art. They want to do a bunch of different styles and interpretations of this universe, but because they treat so many parts of it as canon, it, like, I'm sitting there watching the whole thing like, okay, all of this is supposed to fit into the movie universe, and like that Private Eye story, I'm like, what fucking world is this? Where this connects to them? How does this connect to the movie I saw?
Weirdly enough, that's probably the coolest looking one, and I think it might be my least favorite one.
It's the coolest looking one. It's the one that makes the least sense.
Yeah, I think what it is that every artist brings their own style. So for example, the Aeon Flux guy does a story about humans basically like radicalizing the robots to be on their side.
Mm-hmm.
And so they kidnap the robot, and they basically plug the robot into their own matrix and make it go through its own like
matrix.
It would be like a deprogramming.
Yeah.
You know? And they say they want to use the machine's own free will, so they're not reprogramming the machine.
Mm-hmm.
And my point was, it's very much in the style of Aeon Flux, to the point that the machines look slightly different than they would in the movie. They have those weird little insect legs, and like, it's just way more Aeon Flux, which does lend itself to the Matrix. But the Detective Story one has like this steampunk technology.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and I always thought of that as like, that's the artist's style, but it doesn't make sense in the Matrix universe.
Right, and I wouldn't normally I would watch something like this, and in the back of my mind I would be thinking, okay, not all of this is supposed to be literal, because this is a piece of art and it's a different artist's interpretation of the Matrix universe, so not all of this is literal. So
I think that is...
What?
Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, so I think I could have watched the Private Eye one with that line of thinking and been like, okay, well, there's some even though it's supposed to be like contemporary to the first Matrix because the Private Eye is chasing Trinity, right. So this is presumably the 90s. Yeah, he's like typing on this gigantic steampunk bat computer and shit, and like using a rotary phone. Like, right. There's a couple of things in there where they're clear stylistic choices because the director animator was going for a hard-boiled detective story, but because the Matrix did that thing where it was like it's a multimedia universe and every single thing is canon and it feeds into the story. Like, I couldn't get that out of my mind. So rather than just like enjoying it as like, oh, here's this artist's weird interpretation of the Matrix, I was like, this is all supposed to literally connect to the movie I saw, and like my brain couldn't reconcile it. I'm like, why does this look like this? This is stupid.
But it's not supposed to literally look like that. It's almost like we're watching these stories get told, these stories that happened in this universe get told through these different animators. Mm-hmm. So like, that's all you need to know is like, yeah, it was the story of I don't know, that is the weirdest one because again, it's really film noir and I get why they wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. But it's also, the story is really shitty because it's just a private eye looking for Trinity, and then he finds her on a train, and then the agents almost take over his body and she shoots him, and then she leaves, and that's pretty much the story.
Well, and what's funnier is we're introduced to this person. He's not like a hacker. He's not like a free thinker. He's just like your classic Private Eye character. He gets the job to track down Trinity, and he gets paid $800,000 for it.
Right.
All he does is log into a chat room and say, hey, I want to meet Trinity. And they're like, cool, meet her here. And it's fucking Trinity there.
Yeah.
It's like, how have you guys not been killed by the agents yet if this is how you do business?
I think the implication is that she was also looking for him.
Yes, but
I'm not. It's a bad short. It's all style and very little substance on that one.
I think that's most of the Matrix.
Well, yes. Yeah, I would say yes and no. I think the second Renaissance, part 1 and 2, in this are really good. I would say Kid Story is really good.
Kid Story is okay.
Program's a pretty straightforward story, so I like that.
So many of them, I think another one of my problems with it is so many of these stories are just slightly different versions of the stories we already saw in The Matrix.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like the Program is just a slightly different version of Cypher's betrayal. A Boy's Story is a slightly different version of Neo being brought into the Matrix.
Well, you know what the Kid Story is about, right?
The Kid Story, rather.
You know, it's the worst. You remember that fucking kid in the Matrix sequels?
No.
He's like the young, spunky kid who's like all up on Neo in the sequels.
No.
Oh, he's a character in it. This is the story of that character, which is very funny.
I mean, I wasn't
actually thinking of Kid Story. The one I was thinking of that I like is Beyond, the one with the cat.
Oh, I did. Okay. I think Beyond was probably the one that I enjoyed the most, just because it wasn't an idea that we had already seen in the Matrix.
It was a really cool idea.
It was just like, here's a haunted house.
Yeah,
but like this is what a haunted house is in the Matrix. It's just the program freaking out.
Yeah, it's one of the stupider things that gets introduced more in the video games and briefly in the movie. Yeah, is that, and I really like the idea of it though, is that supernatural beings in our lore are actually hacks in the Matrix. Werewolves, vampires, ghosts are all actually glitches in the Matrix.
My favorite part of that explanation is it does seem cool at first. And then you think about it and you realize that really only makes sense for ghosts.
Yeah.
Because like okay, it would make sense because it looks like somebody has clipping turned off, or you know, they can teleport, they can phase through shit, you can't quite see them. I get that. Why on earth would a computer glitch or some sort of program hack make you a vampire, werewolf, creature from the Black Lagoon?
The way they explain it, the way they explain it is that it's not like a glitch. It's like them making themselves that, like hacking themselves to be that.
That's dumb.
And yeah, no,
that doesn't
pretty
make
dumb.
any sense.
Well, this is one of the things the Wachowskis love to do, is explain like cryptids and lore in their. Remember in fucking Jupiter Ascending where they're
I remember where they explain crop circles. Yeah, it's the same bullshit. They love doing that.
Yeah, they absolutely love doing that.
It's the same thing in one of these goddamn movies. I'm sure it's in one of the sequels. They talk about Jesus. And it's like, okay.
They talk about Jesus a lot.
They do, where it's like, so Jesus was a dude born into the Matrix in the Matrix universe. So we've been in the Matrix for thousands of years.
Yeah.
But like in terms of human history, we're still only, when the Matrix takes place, we're still only about two decades and change into the information age. So people are just learning how to use computers and to be programmers. There is hundreds of years of lore about ghosts and werewolves and shit. So tell me what fucking Franciscan monk hacked into the Matrix.
That's not who's hacking. The humans are doing the hacking.
It's the robots?
The programs.
It's the robots.
The robots. The idea that, I think the second Renaissance kind of introduces, and the sequels introduce, is the realization that the robots are, within the programs in the Matrix, are all kind of also trapped. Not all of them are part of the system. And like the Merovingian and a lot of the like side programs, if you remember the couple with the kid on the
train
subway
platform,
yeah, who you learn in the video games, they betrayed the Oracle. That's why they are being able to bring their kid into the Matrix. But they all sort of like, there's a lot of them who, that's why the truce is sort of possible, is that there's a lot of like programs that aren't really working to oppress the humans. They're just in the Matrix too, existing, and a lot of programs slowly get phased out. And instead of being deleted, they just sort of exist within the Matrix. And that's what they're implying as like ghosts and werewolves. They just become kind of outcasts within the programming of the Matrix.
That's okay.
Yeah. I'm not justifying it.
Listen.
I just knew the answer.
Sure.
So it's a lot of dumb lore.
Yeah, it's chock full of lore.
It's chock full of lore, as is all nerdy things, though.
Honestly, it's really only the second Renaissance is the lore stuff. Like the rest of it is just again, most of it's retreads of stuff we already saw in the movie with like one or two new ideas. Yeah,
the second Renaissance Part 1 and 2, which I believe they were split up originally when I don't know, the order of these seemed weird to me in the did you watch it on HBO?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. But I guess you'd get them all on DVD and you're supposed to skip around. That basically is like, it's almost like just like a historical telling of what happened. Basically what Morpheus explains in the first movie, just drawn out to show that humans were in fact
kind of sorta. It's a stupider version of what Morpheus explains, because Morpheus says it was us who burned the sky. Now I took that to mean that they tried to nuke the robots, which eventually happens. But the first thing they do is put a dome around the globe like Mr. Burns.
Well, I think that is actually in the stupid movies too. They talk about that we snuffed out the sun to.
I thought all of that was him talking about nukes.
No, I could have sworn in the movies they talk about that as well.
I mean,
It's real dumb.
as I've said, I've seen it a handful of times in the past 2.5 decades. So
yeah, it's hard for me to keep track of what I saw in the video games or the movies or whatever. But yeah, no, we put a bunch of planes in the sky.
Yeah, that's dumb. And they just like fart out black clouds to block out the sun. Like because I've heard a lot of talk. I was disappointed with the Second Renaissance because that's the one that I'd heard most people talk about, because it's like, okay, well, you got to watch this one because it's the best one. It explains the conflict between robots and humans. And I thought it was interesting that the humans are unequivocally the bad guys in that.
At first, and then the robots get really bad.
The robots do get really bad, but in their defense...
Oh, yeah, no, we're dicks to them.
They tried like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we literally have them building a pyramid for us at the beginning. And it's like
real stupid.
Yeah.
So I had this explained to me, like, okay, this is the one you got to watch. So I started watching it, and it's just... I kind of lost my train of thought, but like the realization of every one of the story beats was just so silly. Like,
well, it's because it's. Oh no, go on.
I mean, and this isn't criticism against specifically The Matrix. This is across all sci-fi, but it is always funny to me when a movie posits a future world where they're like, yeah, and then the humans created a robot workforce, and it's like humanoid robots putting on hard hats and carrying lunch pails to work.
Yes, it's like, very funny.
It's like, folks, we already have robots at the workplace, and this is not what it looks like.
No, it's very. And then again,
yeah.
I always try to think of it as the artist's interpretation as well, because it's definitely like the robots. It's like fucking iRobot, the movie kind of robots, where they're walking around and they're really polite and they're a bunch of fucking C-3POs, and it's like, okay, that is silly.
Yeah, and then like when it gets to the robots building their, and again, this is across all sci-fi. Well, it makes a little bit more sense in Terminator, because the Terminators are infiltration units specifically, but it's like,
right,
when the war breaks out between the machines and the humans, it's like none of the robots' designs are all built to be like these tentacled, weird, scary things, and humanoid and terrifying, and it's like, I guarantee you that if an AI designed its own army, it would be 100% functional. So, like, it's like when you would watch BattleBots and the robot that would always win was, like, the most boring one. It was just like a block.
Yeah, exactly.
That is exactly what the kind of army a robot would build.
It would just Borg ship.
Yeah.
The cube Borg ship, where it's like, it doesn't have to look like anything. It's a fucking
it wouldn't look
cube.
like and it's the same that we use robots in the workforce today. They are designed for a specific thing, and they're not built to look like anything other than a robot that glues mirrors onto this thing or something like that.
I think the implication in this universe, because they get more and more different from people. And I think the implication is, as they continue on, they get more efficient too. If you remember, they start to resemble insects, like in the third film and stuff like that.
Yeah, like insects and squids.
Yeah. And I think they want us to think that that's the most efficient way for them to look to be. I don't think that's true.
Yeah, again, this isn't a dig against specifically The Matrix. All of science fiction does this. It's just, it's just funny to me when it happens.
Yeah. Well, this is why one of my favorite things in the Second Renaissance is they briefly mention so what happens is the robots are servants. One of them rises up and kills its owners. It becomes a big trial.
That's the part that turned me against the short.
Sure. It becomes this big civil rights issue.
Mm-hmm.
They go to their own country and create their own country. The part I liked was that when they start wrecking us economically.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed, because that's like, oh yeah, that would be one of the things they would do. And then that's when we wage war against them. What didn't you like about the beginning of that?
The fuck would they put that robot on trial for?
Well, they would just shut it off.
Yeah, they would just destroy it. It's and they just say, well, in the movie, all it does is the narrator says, But the machines were created in our image and imbued with the human spirit. It deserves a trial. I'm in like, how in the fuck is that imbued with the human spirit?
I'm guessing some beatniks, like
it's
some hippie ass beatniks, some long hairs.
It's just
the side of the robot.
Every stage of it was so absurd, and then it was juxtaposed with this real severe imagery that was supposed to make me feel like all bummed and woe is me about the ultimate fate of humanity, and I'm just like, this is stupid.
Well, it's all stupid.
It's all stupid, but like that, just the fact that why would you put the robot? It's like putting a lawnmower on trial if it ran over a guy.
Feels, Tom. It's the singularity.
No, it doesn't. When did it feel? We just yada yada over that.
Well, I think they yada yada a lot of it because we all kind of know the tropes, right?
Yeah, that's true, but like
it's a historical account. It's not trying to tell us what the characters are feeling or in the moment what's going on. It's covering like hundreds of years, I think.
That's true, but like artificial intelligence achieving self-awareness is a major thing, and it's like every
and they sort of assume it throughout.
This. It's just assumed. It's already happened.
Yeah,
and that is wild to me.
Right? They don't really spend too much time on that, or any time on that.
They don't spend any time on it at all. They just say this bleep blorp's name, which will never be forgotten, which is funny because I already forgot it.
That's actually an interesting thing about the Matrix is the Matrix doesn't dwell on that idea ever.
No.
Does it?
No.
It sort of just assumes that, like, it never... Because once we get to the Merovingian, we do have a brief moment where Neo is in the subway with that family, and he's asking them questions and realizing, like, the machines believe in karma, and so on and so forth. And so, like, that's sort of a moment they explore it, but, like, the movies sort of assume that we assume that the machines are sentient and feeling throughout.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah, they hit us with it in the first Matrix.
Yeah.
Like, Agent Smith has that whole monologue about how disgusted he is. And that's self-awareness. Like, that's emotion.
Right. Yeah, they're like Bender, where it's like, it's just accepted. Like in Futurama, where it's just like, yeah, robots are emotional.
Yeah. Bender is in this, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah, he's the captain of the ship in Program. The guy she punches in the face after she gets out of the chair. That's Bender.
Oh, that's interesting.
Also, fucking Bobby Hill is in like 2 of these. Ha! Did you notice that? He's definitely Bobby Hill. Pamela Adlon is definitely one of the kids in the haunted house.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it's like one of those kids. It just sounds like Bobby Hill.
Yeah. But yeah, Second Renaissance 1 and 2. We briefly talked about Kid Story. Kid Story is just if all you Matrix heads out there, it's the story of how the kid gets freed from the Matrix. And it is like. It is the most fucked up one because the difference is that he frees himself from the Matrix without external aid by jumping off a building.
By killing himself.
Yeah, and this was like, when did Vanilla Sky come out? We were really into people jumping off buildings to free themselves.
Then it ends with the message, you are not alone.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I get that normally. But the story you just told is about a loner kid who killed himself, and that was the way to gain access to the real world, where it's full of people who are his friends and understand him.
That was that.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing with this short?
That was the one where I was like, "The fuck are you trying to tell me here, short?"
Yeah.
What do you? I don't even know. I don't even know. Yeah. No, that might be my. It's hard. That might be my least favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
Just because it's so fucking weird. But then I think they do a better version of it with World Record. World Record I like a lot because it's a very simple idea, which is I think
World Record is the coolest one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a guy in the Olympics trying to beat his world record, and he pushes himself so hard that he becomes aware of the Matrix, that he briefly breaks out of the Matrix and is in his little egg sack.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole time there are agents trying to, who kind of know that this is going to happen, and they're trying to stop him. And he he fucks his brain and makes it so he can't walk again. And then at the very end, he figures out that he can walk.
Yeah, he stands briefly because he remembers that he's seen the real world. That was that was the coolest one.
Yeah, I really like that. I like all the ones that go into mythology like that, which is like, the question of how do people get out of the Matrix before there were people to get them out of the Matrix? And that's how. It's like you can push yourself to such an extent that you become aware of the Matrix. It's a cool idea.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even call that going into the mythology because it just takes like a 3-word idea. It's a very, very brief story just about a dude waking up from the Matrix. And like, okay, what's another way you could make it from the Matrix? Wake up from the Matrix. I don't know. You push yourself beyond the physical boundaries of a human body. Right. Sweet, let's do it.
Yeah, it's more about diving into the logistics.
Yeah,
and I love when people dive into the logistics of bullshit like this.
Mm-hmm. Or you take one simple idea and you explore it in an interesting way.
Yeah, which is what Beyond is. Beyond is one where I'm like, this is all right. I guess Beyond is the one that made me think about what we need to do more with sci-fi franchises, which is like. So this applies to like Terminator. Mm-hmm. It applies to a lot of things, to the Alien franchises, which is that I love the idea of telling small stories from the point of view of people in this world. You know, it's what we wanted Star Wars to do.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of just a haunted house story where they don't understand that it's just the Matrix glitching. Mm-hmm. And so that's all it is. It's a teenage girl who's looking for a cat, finds an abandoned house where these other like kids play. They call it haunted. And like, it's just like, there's certain rooms where it's like raining inside the room where it's not raining anywhere else. There's like a can just floating. It was very
Houseu. It made me think.
It was very Houseu. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's areas where they can like jump off from a high place and they don't hit the ground. They like stop at the last second. Everything's glitchy, and the idea is at the end the agents come because they're like, yeah, this place is we gotta fix this. Yeah, we fucked up. I love that idea, and I love seeing the Matrix outside of context by a group of people who don't understand what they're seeing.
Right, because we got the opposite of, and the opposite of that was legitimately the more difficult thing to pull off and the more impressive thing. Just we talked about it at the beginning, but those trailers, like, what is the Matrix? They did so good at keeping a lid on that. Because when I finally saw this movie, the hype was maximum, and I still had no fucking clue what the Matrix was.
Right.
So it was legit a reveal when it happened.
Yeah. The reveal is it's just the movie The 13th Floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Came out earlier that year.
Yeah.
Or actually, like right around the same time. Anyway,
about the same
time. But seeing it from the perspective of characters who don't know what it is, but we already understand what it is, was cool.
Yeah, a lot of things outside of context are really fucking cool, like that sci-fi shit.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it was a really, it's simple enough, and it's a really fun one. Yeah, I think this is my favorite one. It also just looked really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the style was fine.
Yeah.
The stylistic ones that jump out to me are the Ninja Scroll guy and World Record, and then obviously the Eon Flux guy.
Yeah, the Eon Flux one is, God, it can't not, like, he literally has, when they pump into the Matrix, they like moan. And it's like, can you not for a second be Eon Flux?
Nope.
Can you, like, yeah, he's not when he's doing Rugrats, at least. He's not overtly sexual. Peter Chung did Eon Flux, Rugrats, and this Animatrix.
Goddamn thing.
And it's way CGI, too, which is weird for him.
Yeah, that was the one that I found the hardest to pay attention to.
Well, most of it is just, look at this cool shit that we're doing.
I think it's the longest one, too.
It might be.
Like, it's like 20 minutes long. It goes on.
Yeah. All right. Eon Flux is kind of the experience of that one Beyond, in a TV show, because Aeon Flux will often have like really surreal looking technology that they won't stop to explain while you're watching, and it makes it feel like you're going insane. And that's what I fucking love about it.
That's pretty common, particularly for a lot of anime or Eastern animation.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Where they're just like, here's this fucking thing,
right?
And like, honestly, that's
weird shit. That's going on.
That's kind of it's less prominent in Western sci-fi, because a lot of Western sci-fi tends to like to sit down and really explain how each piece of machinery works, because that's like, for some reason, that's kind of where our heads are at.
Right.
But like, it's not unheard of, you know, to be so where it's just like, Jim Cameron never told us how the Hunter Killers work. We don't need to know. We can look at it and be like, yeah, I can see what that does.
But I'll say this one is it's one of the other ones that sort of explores logistics, something that I don't really think we've seen, which is like, how are we fighting back against the machines? Here's a creative way that we're using the Matrix to our advantage.
Yeah,
because we
true.
always see us using it as training programs and shit like that. This is them using it to like bring a machine into their own Matrix where the machine is powerless, and they're basically breaking the machine psychologically. And Peter Jung's really good at that dream shit. At like having it stick its head in a hole and suddenly it's on a stage, and then its face peels into a little ball, and then it's trying to catch the ball and get it, and they're playing with it. Like that shit, oh, he loves that bullshit.
He truly does.
Yeah. And it's perfect for this. For the idea of deprogramming a machine through this like weird human surreal experience that you really just have to be just, you know, really high for.
Just incredibly high.
Yeah, too high. Too high.
Oh, man, I'm looking at Peter Chung's credits. He's got some cool ones.
Oh, yeah.
He worked on the opening titles of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Really?
Yeah, the animated series.
That checks out.
Yeah.
Looking at those titles, it's very... Because I think the really easy way to tell it's Peter Chung is like the camera work. There's always this weird like wide angle look. To a lot of his shit. Like Rugrats has that too. And so does the title to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's fucking weird.
It's pretty sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
Worked on the Transformers movie too.
Nice. Good for him.
Yeah, he's killing it in the 80s.
Yeah. They gotta bring back Aeon Flux.
I mean,
for me and only me.
They're bringing back Rugrats.
They are, exactly.
Yeah.
Bring back fucking Aeon Flux. Make a better movie. Not that movie.
Don't make that movie. Make a cool movie.
Yeah. The Peter Chung, I just looked this up, called that movie a travesty.
I don't doubt that he did.
And it was.
It's none of the things his cartoon was. Okay.
Yeah. Back to the Matrix. The Animatrixes. We more or less talked about all of them.
Yeah, we've covered all of them. I mean, it's... I really don't mean to poo-poo on the Matrix so much. I know a lot of people are really into it. And maybe I'm not really pooping on it that much. It's just it just never clicked to me, so it's hard to get invested when I watch these.
Are there Matrix fans? Like here I guess I clearly know a lot about the Matrix.
Mm-hmm, you do.
I felt nothing by you poo-pooing on it. Does that make sense?
Just no emotion.
Yeah. What I mean is that it's like the Matrix isn't... I don't think it's regarded as amazing, and I certainly don't think it's amazing.
I think that first film... That first
film's incredible, yeah.
People will really jump on a landmine for, and I totally get it. That changed movies. It did.
Yeah. I think so, and I think I'm a fan of the first movies.
Yeah,
the
first movie is good. Yeah,
I don't think there's like diehard Matrix fans, right? There's no one dressing up like
2021. I don't know, man. Like, I know that's a whole bit that Jeff does.
Yeah, I know it's a whole bit that Jeff does.
But like, yeah, it's maybe, I don't know. It'd be tough to be a real hardcore Matrix fan right now.
Yeah.
Well, not right now, because we got a new one coming out. Like 5 years ago, it was probably pretty rough to be a hardcore Matrix fan.
I guess
nobody cares.
This is why maybe I am the most hardcore Matrix fan.
You might be the biggest Matrix fan I know, just because you've seen all of it.
Just because I see them, they have a place in my heart. All of them. I enjoy them. And I am looking forward to the fourth one. It's a lot of it for me is there's nothing precious about it.
That's true, yeah.
It is kind of a broken franchise from the second one on. So seeing the Animatrixes, I'm like, fuck it, yeah. Let's keep doing it. And I like the attitude they have towards not making it that precious.
Yeah.
And having other artists mess with it like this. I wish the Animatrix was more of a series of films. And I wish they could do this for stuff like Star Wars or, any other big fandoms.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like this is the positive attitude to have.
Yeah, this is what I do agree that the Animatrix is like what we want from these big universes. We want to see like the big universes that we really like, that people are really plugged into, like Star Wars or Marvel or any of the other big ones, is we want to see stuff that's like weird and outside of the box and like left of center and from a bunch of different filmmakers and storytellers. Let's just go in there and go fucking crazy, man. Give us a Matrix. What do you got?
Right. And so I don't know. In that regard, there's a lot here to admire, and same with the video games.
Yeah, no, it's the Matrix is one I think will probably be one of the more fascinating 3 to 4 years of pop culture in history. Because man, if you're a youngin, listen to this. I cannot stress how apeshit people were about this in like 2002, 2003. People fucking lost their minds over the Matrix.
And it's very weird because it's one of those franchises. I guess it's like Pirates of the Caribbean or The Mummy, where it's like it blew up, but it didn't have this like shockwave that Star Wars has or Lord of the Rings has or Harry Potter has, where it's like we're making fucking more franchises and we're making theme parks.
It didn't have the legs.
No. Although I will say making an Avatar world, which is a thing, makes about as much sense as making a Matrix world. I would have rather a Matrix world.
Honestly, well,
at a theme park?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the rides would be. It'd be a real bummer, but fuck it. Be fighting the Sentinels or something. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you just get those like everybody's just in a big trampoline room.
Ooh, trampoline room.
That'd be kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird how this is that like the Wachowskis, they've never made me mad. Like they've never like the way like, Rise of Skywalker made me mad.
Oh, sure.
Where it's like watching something so mediocre and so lazy. The Wachowskis aren't lazy.
No.
And they are
no.
Yeah, and they are passionate.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they don't take it too seriously. If you watch or if you play Path of Neo, that game takes you through literally the path of Neo, like every Neo throughout the movies you play as him, much like a Lego game does,
sure.
At the very end, when you're supposed to fight Agent Smith, do you remember the ending where you like fight him on the street where Neo fights him?
Are you talking about the movie?
The movie where Neo fights Agent Smith on the street. They at the very end of the game, they cut to the Wachowskis as like little avatars explaining that they didn't want to do the exact same thing because they thought it'd be boring. So they change it to make all the Agent Smiths form a giant Agent Smith, like a cluster of ants, and you have to fight that instead.
Sure.
And it's them basically being like, yeah, who gives a shit? Like, fight a giant Agent Smith. That's more fun.
Yeah, King Kong. Peter Jackson did that in Peter Jackson's King Kong, the video game.
Oh, did he? Where he's like, you don't want to die, right?
Yeah.
Is like that it? Yeah.
Yeah. If you get like a good enough score, like they come and say, yeah, well, we decided that King Kong lives, so you're Kong now.
That's great.
And then you just get to be Kong and not die.
Yeah. Because fuck it.
Yeah, because fuck it. It's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're having fun.
Yeah, you're supposed to have fun. You don't want to be sad at the end of the game.
And I think the Matrix they're trying to be fun. They're trying to have fun with all this bullshit.
Well,
and they're trying to give us weird orgies and
got real
fucking leather and
real self-serious and melodramatic at the end of. I mean, anyway,
yeah, Jesus. He's Jesus.
Jesus.
You know, Neo is an anagram for Jesus. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Don't look it up.
You have to break the letters apart.
Yeah, reform them.
And then reform them like the T-1000, but yeah.
I am so curious to see what kind of bullshit the Matrix 4 does, because here's the thing. They had an idea for a single movie.
They sure did, and then it's part of the reason the sequels, I think, got so self-indulgent is because that first one ends with Neo flying, and the point of that ending was supposed to be fuck, and it works. Yeah. But of course, when that's where your movie ends, you're like, well, where the fuck do we go from that?
Yeah. And Warner Brothers came to them. They plopped a lot of money down, and they're like, please.
Here is $500 million. Give us 2 more Matrixes. And they're like, we will find a way.
Yeah, and they're like, you know what? We'll give you video games, and we'll give you... And that's what I really like, is that it's all like one big improv, like exercise. It's like they made their movie, and then everything else was them bullshitting, including the Animatrix, where they just gave it to other people, and they're like, you figure something out.
The Animatrix really reminds me of the Key and Peele Gremlins 2 sketch.
Yeah.
Like, less absurd, but still absurd.
Right.
But like with the general thing, like every idea we come up with in this room is canon.
Yep.
So let's go.
Yeah. I fucking love it. And so do you, Tom.
This was so boring, Dave.
Second biggest Matrix fan, Tom.
I feel like I was watching these cartoons for 4 hours.
Yeah? No, only 102 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I am now 102 minutes closer to the grave.
Yeah, but now you've pretty much, like, you got to play the video games, but then you've seen all the Matrix stuff in preparation for the fourth movie.
That's true.
You're not going to go into that movie confused, you know? You're going to know exactly.
I think I still will.
Yeah.
I still will go into that movie confused.
All right, well, just get high and watch it again. Then it'll all make sense. I was watching with this Hana, and like in the first 5 minutes, she was like, "Are we supposed to be high for this?" And it's like, "Yeah."
I mean, you're not supposed to be.
Yeah, no, that's part of probably why I enjoy this so much. Because the first time I watched it, I was just so high. But I still enjoy it. I can't defend it as good, but I like any of this bullshit. I like any of this weird,
sure,
anime horse shit. It's fine. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I don't have anything else to say, man.
Yeah, we've spoken enough about it.
We have.
We absolutely have.
We're finished.
Okay. Well, David Knifeboot Hinson, thank you so much. I mean that. I wanted Tom to watch the Animatrixes so bad.
And now I have.
And now he has.
Now I have. And we've talked about it.
He's the second biggest Matrix fan on this podcast, at least. You know? Can you say that, Tom?
Yes.
Yeah.
I am comfortable saying that.
Yeah. This was through our Patreon. If you're interested, you can go to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. we have exclusive podcasts on there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Fox Mulder is a maniac. We also have a third podcast called Star Trek: The Next Futurama. That's every month. In total, it's like 8 podcasts a month for $5 a month. It's good. It's like cents. It's like 15 cents a podcast or something. I don't know. I'm not going to do the math.
No, nor should you, but it's a really good deal.
Yeah.
I encourage all of you at home to do the math. We also have a store, tpublic.com/stores/gamefully-unemployed. We can get t-shirts, masks, mugs, stickers, posters, all kinds of things. Check that out.
Absolutely. And,
perhaps old PS2 copies of The Path of Neo. I don't know.
Which I own. I just brought that home. I have a PS2 copy of Path of Neo. Does anybody have... Hey, does anybody have a PlayStation 2 they can borrow or lend to me?
Dave.
Yeah?
Dave.
What?
We have a PlayStation 2.
You do?
Yes.
Can I come over and play Path of Neo?
I mean, I'll bring it to your apartment when we do that thing.
Path of Neo!
Yeah, Path of Neo!
Oh, yes!
Fuck me up! I also have one of the Evil Dead video games. I'll bring that over.
Oh, we're going to have so much fun.
We'll be in middle school again.
Yes. Oh, it'll be like the War on Terror. All over again. War on Terror. War on Terror.
I'm slightly older. So.
All right. Are we done?
War on Terror was college for me, man.
Yeah. But it'll be just like it. It'll be like it.
It will be just like it, yeah.
Freedom fries.
Yeah, hope. And freedom toast.
Freedom toast.
Good God.
Oh, this country is terrible.
Yep. We would bomb a fancy robot, shows up to the UN with a top hat and an apple, and is like, let's be friends.
That fancy robot.
Murder that motherfucker.
Absolutely. Oh, man. Do you think it's saying a song or something? I
think it did. It was probably, it probably was just playing the Voyager record when it walked in.
Oh, yeah. Little steel mustache. Fuck that
And then we
thing.
arrested them.
Fuck the robots.